Want to know what you should pack in a bug out bag? Well, follow this guide to show you how. Let's check it out. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for taking the time out to check the channel out and click on the video. Now you find me today in my stores and I'm going through some kit because I'm packing a bug out bag for an upcoming trip. I'm taking a train to a town 30 odd miles away and then walking back over a couple of days or a day and a half. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pack the bag as a bug out bag or go bag. So I thought while I'm packing a bag and sorting through kit, why don't I come up with a list or a system which will help you or enable you to pack your own go bag or bug out bag. Now you're probably thinking, oh, not another video about bug out bags and whatnot. There's millions of out there on YouTube, isn't it? I've done a few. But no, this is something different. As I said, we're not packing a bag today. I'll leave that and show you that on future videos. What we're doing today is going through a system which will help you pack your own bug out bag, build your own bug out bag. And not just a bug out bag, you could use this for a go bag, grab bag, emergency bag, get home bag, whatever you want to call it. They're all more or less the same, aren't they? You know, it's basically a bag of supplies and goodies to get you from one situation, which may not be favourable, to another. So yeah, you can use this system, I think, anyway, to cover all those sort of bags. So before we get started, obviously the first thing you need is a bag. Most people have got some sort of rucksack these days, and I'm trialing this new one out from Vector Tactical. But really, realistically, if you're looking at a go bag, grab bag, you want something, I think, between 30 and 50 litres. If it's just a small get-home bag, you're only walking a few hours, or a 24-hour bag, you may get away with something a bit smaller, 25 to 30 litres. And obviously, if you're in colder climates or in dead of winter, you may need a bigger bag where you can get more warm clothing or a bigger sleeping bag. But today, we're not going to focus much on the bag itself. We're more going to focus on this system I got in place where you can pick the right gear to suit whatever bag you take. And also with this system, it's not just different types of bag you could use it for, it's also different locations, no matter where you are in the world. Different circumstances, everybody's different, aren't they? And also different climates, and also different durations. So no matter how long you're packing your bag for, 72 hours, 48 hours, 24, where you are in the world, what time of year, this system I think we could use for all. So without further ado, should we get into it? Let's go for it. Right, and the system I come in place, it's full of acronyms. Is that the right word? An acronym? Something like that, isn't it? And an acronym I've used for building your own bug out bag is, believe it or not, bug out. So B-U-G-O-U-T. Is that right? Yeah. Now with the word bug out, I put these in relative order of importance, I think. You might disagree with me, but this is what I come up with myself. So B, the first one, that's going to be basics. Now what do I mean by basics? Well, this is your go-to items. This is why they're first on the list. And I've split this again now into an acronym. I think it's a word, an acronym. I'll get it right in the end. And that's SHTF. Yes, not the shit, it's the fan, as you think it is. It's SHTF. Shelter, hydration, trauma or treatment, and food. So the first one, shelter. We'll just grab a few examples off the shelf. Now, what do I mean by shelter? Well, obviously, you want to shelter yourself from the elements. Now, if you're thinking a get-home bag and you're only going to walk, say, a few hours to get home from your place of work or wherever you are, you're not going to stay overnight, then you don't need a shelter, perhaps. So you might just have a waterproof coat. That's shelter, isn't it? That's sheltering you from the elements. It could be a poncho, which I've got somewhere. Poncho. Again, you could use that to shelter yourself from the elements and build a overnight shelter. It could be a small lightweight tent. Again, depending on your terrain, where you're more likely going to, say, camp out for night if you're traveling multiple days. And obviously what your skill set is. Use a basher or a tarp. Could be, which I've got in my bag somewhere. So in here I've got a hammock, tarp, all the paraphernalia that goes with it, and that's okay as long as you've got trees where you can hang your hammock. Could be just a bivvy bag and a tarp. So there's loads of different shelters. If you're like Bear Grylls or Ray Mears, you don't need to carry a shelter. You can just form yourself a shelter out of twigs. But I think it's just far easier to pack a simple shelter in your bag. So if you do need to get yourself under cover and away from the elements, you can. And when you have got your shelter sorted, just make sure if you're using a tarp, you've got your guide lines, bit of paracord, bank line, and your pegs. Okay, so that's it. That's first on the list from basics. S for shelter. So next on the list from basics is H, hydration. Water's essential, isn't it? Right? You need water to drink, obviously, and survive, you know. But you also need water to perhaps cook, wash, sterilize things, whatever it is, you need water. So you can carry water, obviously you need something to carry in. So some sort of vessel. I particularly like this Nalgene stainless steel, so I can cook on this as well, or boil water in it. So there's your vessel. So ideally you want some sort of vessel. This is another one I usually use. Right, this is a purifier as well. Speaking of purifying, it's not just having water. You can't carry all the water you need. Say you're off for a couple of days, you can't carry everything. So you might need a way of filtering your water. So loads of different ways of filtering your water. You've got your inline filters. Got this one from, yeah, I have to get my glasses on. Puribag, I think, isn't it? Yeah, this is a Puribag micro. I've got to try these out yet. I've still got to do a video on trying these out. So you've got your inline filters. You also got your bladder systems you can use. These are great, don't take up much space. You can actually just roll these up in your bag. Put them in the bottom of your bag. Then you've got an extra vessel to carry water in if you need it. You've got your pump filters. Straw filters. Sawyer Mini, really good one. 100,000 gallons of water, I think this one does. If you're in large groups, you've got your gravity filters, Millbank bags. So there's loads of different filters out there. Puri tabs. It's always a good idea to pack a few Puri tabs. Last resort, they don't taste very nice. Put these in the water, but they will kill everything off. Right? Pre-filter your water first, and then put some Puri tabs in, and then you know it's safe to drink. So that's it for hydration, really, is having some sort of water on you, or vessels to carry your water, and some way of, if you haven't got clean water, is cleaning water and making it safe to drink. That's second on the list after shelter, is water. You can put these in different orders, but this is the way I needed to spell out SHTF tonight, so that's the way they're in this order. So yeah, H is for hydration. Right, so that's shelter, hydration. Next is T. We need to go in the other room for that. Right, so we are in the prepping room. Well, the kids call it the prepping room. T on the list, and that's for trauma stroke treatment. And as you guessed, it's first aid. So first aid, I always say, should match the activity you're doing. So if you're just walking on the hills, there's no need to carry trauma dressings and Israeli bandages, you know, tourniquets. You just want perhaps some blister care, you know, bit of zinc oxide tape, some plasters, maybe even a SAM splint, you know, in case you twist your ankle. So build yourself a trauma kit or first aid kit that's going to suit your needs. If you are thinking bug out bag and you're out for a couple of days, say it's a 72-hour bag or 48, whatever it is, and you may be using edge tools, you know, knives and axes, then yeah, think worst case scenario, you know, tourniquets, Celox Rapid, Israeli bandages, all that good stuff is all good life-saving equipment. Now I've got loads of different first aid kits. These are just the empty bags, but I can make kits up as and when I need. Some are pre-made, like this one. And down here, I've got my trauma kit. So I can just grab this at a moment's notice. And in there I've got all the essentials you need. So personally, if you've got a small bug out bag, get home bag, emergency bag, get yourself a good decent first aid kit, and then add to it depending on the more likelihood of injury you're going to face. So that was the third one on the list of SHTF, T, trauma or treatment. The next one could be your favourite. So the next on the list of our SHTF is food. Now again, food comes in a variety of different types of food, whether it's your ration packs or MREs, your freeze-dried food. If you're just, again, on a short journey, it just could be a few sweets and treats, right? So these are just a few bits and bobs I keep in a box. This is a food pack, I think from the last time I was going out. So in there would be, I think it's just 24 hours worth of food. Yeah, so we've got a few MREs in there. Not that I eat many MREs these days. Drinks, cakes, a few treats. So that's your food for, well, I'd say that's 24 hours. Could probably make that last even more. Brew kit, your teas, coffees, milk powders. There's even like lighters and matches in it. Right, so put yourself together a good food kit, brew kit. Put that in your bag. So again, depending on how long that bug out bag is for or get on bag is for, will depend obviously how much food you put in it. There's no good putting 3 days of worth of food in it if you're only walking 10 miles. And again, if you're walking 3 or 4 days, worst case scenario, it's no good just putting a few Mars bars in there. So the amount of food you put in, the amount of calories you put in that bag should obviously reflect on how far or how much work you've got to put in getting home or getting to safety. So I was, chocolate bar there, dark chocolate, yeah, put that in my bag. I think I'll put in the brew kit, be a nice little surprise. So there we are, that's basics covered. So just to recap, when you're packing your go bag, bug out bag, think bug out, first one, basics, and break that down again into SHTF. Shelter, hydration, trauma, and food. Okay, sorted. So our acronym, bug out. First on the list, B, basics, done. Second is U, that's for utilities. Took my glass off, I'm not sure if it reflects in the light. So yeah, what do I mean by utilities? Well, these are the problem solvers. These are the tools and the equipment you're going to use to solve problems. And I've broken this down into an acronym, and that's FIST. So first on the list, F, and that's fire. Now I know before you start, if you're just building a simple get home bag, and again you're only going to walk a few hours, you won't need to make a fire. So this will come more apparent if you're building bug out bags for longer periods of time. And you may need a fire to, say, cook food, keep warm, keep the beers away or whatever it is. So, as I said, first on the list for F is fire. So let's show you what I mean. We're not talking blazing infernos. Could just be ferro rod, yeah. Simple thing like that, put in your pocket. Could be a fire kit or a fire tin. Right, I've got several fire kits, some in a bag somewhere. So in there you'll have different ways of lighting fires. Cotton wool balls. You got some King Alfred's cake. You got some tinder. Could be some matches. Probably one of the best things for a fire, keep in your pocket, is a lighter. So I suggest, if you're building a bug out bag, is build yourself a little fire kit. Here's one I've been using while filming A New Dawn, my post-apocalyptic series. I'm on episode 3 so far, so check that out if you haven't seen it. So yeah, in there, there's another little fire kit put together. Again, similar sort of stuff. Lighter, your matches, another lighter, ferro rod, there's some tape in here, or there's little hexi blocks. Yeah, there's all sorts of things in that little fire kit, all neatly kept in a little bag. So that's one of the essential things I think you should pack in a bag if you're traveling over longer periods of time and you maybe staying overnight, is something to make fire. Next on our acronym FIST is I, which is illumination. And this obviously means lighting, doesn't it? So torches, got your head torch, you've got other types of torch, flashlights, you've got magnets, glow sticks. large torches, you know, lanterns. There's a plethora of different types of illumination lights. If I'm camping out in a hammock or tent, this little lantern is a good one. Turn it off. Head torch I think is a must. Just allows you to be hands-free, you know, and obviously red light as well. Rechargeable LED torches. There they are, bright. There we are. So depending on your scenario, your situation, choose a right sort of illumination. Personally myself, in my bag I like to carry a couple of glow sticks, some sort of head torch with batteries, and on my person end another little flashlight. So we've got multiple ways of illumination. And again, just like the shelter, if you're carrying tarps, you should make sure you carry your pegs and your guidelines. If you're carrying torches, which are battery operated, make sure you've got batteries as well. And if they are USB charged, make sure they're charged up and you've got some way of keeping them charged as well. Right, so there we are, illumination. Now, for fist, next is S, and that's for sharps. Let's just go and get my box of sharps, and I'll show you what I mean. Oh, bloody hell. Now when it comes to sharps, what do I mean? Well, it's your cutting tools. So this could be your folding saw, you know, if you're going to get firewood. Obviously could be just a bushcraft knife, you know, again, if you're processing woods, cutting paracord. Could even be axe. So again, depending on your situation, where you are in the world, what time of year it is, you know, if it's a dead of winter, snow, you definitely need to make a fire, you know. And if you're making a fire, you need firewood. So maybe thinking axe. Now you might be like me and you might have a big chopper, which will do, you know, your job with an axe and your knife for processing wood. Different types of saw, folding saw. There's loads of different knives out there, in it. You know, I've got a box of bloody knives here, and I hardly ever use most of these knives. But sometimes just can't collect them. But they might come in use one of these days. A few of these knives I've been given for testing, for reviewing. I haven't got around to doing it yet. So yeah, there are some real nice knives. What else we got? Sharps. Again, could be axes. Could even mean these shovels, you know, these Spetsnaz shovels. Anything with an edge, basically, isn't it? Will do a job for cutting. So that's your sharps. Now, personally, in my bug out bag, I will probably carry some sort of bushcraft camp knife, this sort of size, in the bag. Yeah, I'll cut myself here. And then on my person, I carry myself a little folding knife. To be honest, something like this will probably do most jobs. Unless you're processing a lot of firewood, this will, you know, do just about everything else. But if you have got more demanding jobs, then yeah, you might need a bigger knife or an axe. So there we are. So that was S on the list, and that's your sharps. So next on the list is T. That's tools. So there's many different types of tools, aren't there? And again, which tools you carry will depend on what sort of bag you build in and what sort of situation you find yourself in. For example, multi-tool. Good tool to have in the kit. Yes, it could come under the department of sharps, but it's a bit more than a knife, isn't it? It's a multi-tool. So again, you can carry this in your bag or on your person. Loads of different tools in here. If you're in an urban environment, you might want to carry something like, you know, a small pinch bar, or pry bar in America they call them. Zip ties could be classed as a tool. Right, again, loads of different jobs you can do. Duct tape or gaffer tape, insulation tape. Again, it's a tool for repairing things or even starting fires, whatever it is, it's a tool you can pack in your bag. It could be extra lengths of paracord or some sort of climbing rope. Depending on your situation, where you are, what sort of bag you're packing, your tool could be just about anything. It could even be as we've seen in other videos, a drone. You know, a good tool you could utilize, you know, when you're prepping, bugging out. If you've got space in your bag and a need for it, you know, a drone could be a tool to use. In serious scenarios or, you know, dire situations, a respirator could be a tool that you need to pack. You know, life-saving equipment. It could be an EDC kit with all the different types of tools in there. You know, if you've got room in your bag, you could pack that in there. So a tool basically is an item or items you can pack in your bag that will not only aid your survival, but also may get you out of trouble. So there we are, that's utilities done of our bug out an acronym. And that utility was split into FIST, and that's your fire, your illumination, your sharps, and your tools. So the next one down on our bug out an acronym is G, and that's for gear. Now I know I'm going over it again and again, but this will obviously depend on type of bag you build in and your situation. So what I've done is split the gear into another acronym, and that's EDC. So the first one being electronics. Now our world and our lives are run on gadgets these days, aren't they? Gadgets and gizmos. And we're all guilty of packing them in our bags. Now when I go camping or whatever I'm doing, going out overnight, I usually got a bag of electronics. Got this little Flextail pump and light. Pump up my earbed. Battery bank. Leads for charging my phone. Sometimes I'll take my little solar battery bank and charger. Could even be a solar panel. Right, you can clip this onto the back of your bag, charge your battery banks up or your devices. So if you have got devices, you know, rechargeable torches, perhaps even navigation equipment, your phone, whatever it is, you need something to charge them up, battery bank, or a way of keeping them charged like a solar panel. Now you could argue that the electronics could be part of the tools, but I think that electronics needs a little section of their own because they cover a broad range of items. Could be, like I say, little electronic devices, your charging leads, your solar panels and your battery banks. Becoming more and more essential these days for your bug out bag. The first one of EDC is electronics. Now D is for defense and protection. Why I chose defense is because it has numerous different meanings and it will change depending on where you are in the world. If you're in the US of A, obviously D could be self-defense firearms. Now it's not a real firearm, by the way, before you get the police round. So yeah, if you're across the pond in America, every man and his dog's got a gun, haven't they? So if you are thinking about bugging out somewhere and you need to defend yourself, you're going to have some sort of firearm as well, aren't you? Could even be a crossbow. But in the UK, obviously, it's illegal to have firearms, especially for self-defense. There are certain circumstances where you can have firearms, but not for self-defense. So if you are in America, yes, the D can stand for defensive items. It could be bloody bear spray. It could be, like say, firearms. It could be any number of things. In the UK, I was thinking more PPE. I know it's lame, isn't it? You know, American term, but it could be an environment where you need masks, need eye protection, something like this. Gloves, I think, are a must for your bug out bag. If you're in an urban environment, you might even want a high-vis vest. So just think defense, not just self-defense, you know, shooting bad guys, crossbows and guns, all that sort of stuff, but defending yourself, keeping yourself safe. Boring, maybe, I know, but essential. If you're out in the woods, perhaps you're in wood, carving firewood, you don't want a splinter in your eye, so make sure you've got eye protection. Again, you want to protect your fingers, you know. It's no good being out in the sticks and you've injured your fingers, your hands, and then you're knackered, aren't you? You could be escaping some urban environment, so you might want a face mask or, like, say, a high vis. So think defense in those sort of terms. Not just, as I said, self-defense, but obviously defending oneself. Does that sound about right? So, quite an easy one. So, there we are, EDC, electronics, defense. Next one is cooking equipment. Now, why I haven't put this further on up the list? Well, that's because not every bug out bag may be needing cooking equipment. Again, you might be only walking a few hours. If you're staying overnight, you might just survive on crisps and chocolate, isn't it? So you don't always need cooking equipment. But if you are thinking of staying for 72 hours or 3 or 4 days, wherever it is, you may need to boil water and cook food. So that's where I have put down cooking equipment. Again, it comes in a variety of different types, isn't it? Not just your pots and pans. This is a titanium one, but also your stoves as well. You've got your folding stoves, like these Hexa burners. A bit dubious these days, aren't they? Your jet boils, windshield, your gas stoves, the gas stove in there, different types of pots and pans, tent peg stove, something basic. I like to carry my folding stove, titanium, very lightweight obviously, being titanium, but it packs down to very small, and I can burn twigs in there, I can burn solid fuel, whatever it is I can burn in there. So cooking equipment comes in a variety of different forms, and not just your pots, your pans, your stoves, but also think spork. It's not good cooking up your rations and having no way of eating it. So make sure you've got a spork, and I always like to take a little flask as well, a drinking vessel, so if I am making a hot drink, cup of tea, hot toddy, whatever it is, I can put it in a flask and I can just drink that over a few hours. So that was gear, what gear you're going to take, and I split the gear down to EDC, and that's electronics, defense, and cooking equipment. On our bug out, an acronym, we're halfway there, so stay with it. So we've had basics, utilities, and gear. Next one is O, and that's for optics. So with optics, it's all about seen and be seen. So I've split it down to BS, right? Not bullshit. First one being B, binocs. So it could be binoculars, right? You might want to obviously scout out where you're going. You might see something in the distance, you need to get a closer view of it. Could be a binocular, right? You've just got one eye. Could just be just a small binocular, for use for bird watching, that sort of stuff. But enough just to obviously get a better view of, say, something in the distance or see where you're going. So pretty straightforward. This is going to be a quick one, this one. So pretty straightforward. B being binoculars or monoculars. There's another one, bigger one. Give yourself. And the S for signalling. Now this covers, again, a broad range of things you can use for signalling. I like to pack these survival bags in my bag. Not just good for obviously packing up if you want to make yourself a bit of a sleeping platform. Keep yourself warm, get inside the bag, but you can also use these for signalling, because they're bright orange obviously. Could also be your signalling mirror. Always good to put in your bag. Emergency whistle. If there's been an emergency and you're walking along the road and there's traffic, you might want to put something like this on your backpack or on yourself. So we're not always talking about tactical bugging out. It could be bugging out from some sort of disaster, and you may be walking along a road and you need to be seen. I like these little marker panels. Put these on your bag. They fold out so you can be seen. Or if you're trying to get rescue from above, you can wave this about, put it on the ground, and hopefully get yourself out of trouble. High vis vest, as we've shown before. Always a good thing to put in your bag. If you haven't got anything like a marker panel, again, if you need to be rescued, if you need to be seen, it's something you can utilize. Could be something simple like a chem light or glow stick. Or my own favorite is a pack of mini flares, right? Shouldn't really have these. So these, once screwed on, pull it out, pull the trigger, and then you've got a big bright light in the sky. Smoke is another one. I've got smoke signals in the shop. A good thing you can put in your bag, but just be careful obviously if you've got something like flares, smokes, they are explosives. So you've got to treat them with a bit of care. So there we are, there's optics. See or be seen with your binocs or monoculars and your signalling equipment. Right, so there we are on our bug out an acronym. O was for optics. Again, that was split down to BS, binocs, and signaling. Next one, U, which is for understanding. Understanding your environment. Now I split this down again into another acronym, and that's info. So first one being intel. How do you gather information when you're out and about? Well, there's several ways you can do it. You can have your walkie-talkies, two-way radios, mesh-tastic systems, your ham radios, or even just a wind-up or battery-operated radio. It's always good to be well informed in any situation, especially an emergency situation. Personally, I like the UV5R, or I got the Rectifist one equivalent. Not only is it a good handheld radio, walkie-talkie, but you can listen to FM radio as well, so you can keep up to date with any news being broadcast. So that's the first one off, info. That's intel, information gathering. So the second letter of our acronym, N, is for navigation tools. So these could be obviously GPS devices, could be just a basic compass, could be range of beads, it could be a number of different things. Myself personally, I just use a compass. Now you might be saying navigation should be higher up on the list. Personally for myself, yes, it's one of the first things I pack. But if you don't know how to use a compass and a map, you're not very good at navigation, why would you prioritize it? And again, if you're only walking a few hours down a road, you don't need to navigate. Now, if you are traveling on terrain which is unfamiliar and you can map read and you have got a compass, then yeah, you would probably pack it in one of the first things you put in your bag. But it's lower down on the list because not everybody is able to navigate and not everybody needs to be able to navigate. But it's still an essential piece of the kit to put in your bag, I think. It's just a bit lower down on the list. Okay, so anybody who's here piping up saying that should be, number 4 on the list, whatever, that's why it's lower down. So, stop waffling, Lee. Navigation. So navigation tools, yeah. So again, loads of different navigation tools. I keep it simple. Another acronym, KISS, in it. Keep it simple, stupid. A good compass, silver compass, and that should be in your bag. Navigation aids, navigation tools. To go with that, F, field maps. No good having a compass. Yes, you can obviously see which way is north, east, south and west, but you want a map of the area as well. Now, it's no good having all the maps of all the areas of the world, innit? You're not going to physically carry all them. You could, as part of your navigation tools, have it on your phone or your device. I like to carry, obviously, a map on where I'm going. So if I am going somewhere and I'm packing a bucket bag for that trip, I'll get a few maps of that local area and put in the bag or in the vehicle. It doesn't have to be ordnance survey maps. There's loads of different maps. I got a road map, right? So this is a road map of the UK, right? So what is that? You've got all of Scotland there, look. Yes, it's not very detailed, but all the roads are on there, and you can probably navigate your way around. I can't fold it now. Navigation lesson 101, how to follow a map. There. So yeah, road map, as I said, not as detailed as the ordnance survey map, but enough to could get out of trouble. Map case, part of your navigation tools. Your map, make sure your map is obviously looked after. I've got some foreign maps here somewhere, I thought. Map of Spain and Portugal, look. What's that? Somewhere in the Pyrenees, I think I was when I'm walking there. So no matter where you are, get yourself a map, whether it's a walking map, 1 in 25,000, 1 in 50, or some sort of road atlas. You can stick in your bag. So if you did have to navigate the road networks or even the footpaths and bridleways, at least you can see where you're going and hopefully not get lost. So there's F for field maps. The last one on that acronym is O, and that's for OBS or observations. So you've got your walkie-talkies, you listen to the news, you've got your binoculars or your monocular, and you've scouted the area and you've seen what's going on, but how do you relay that information to someone else? Well, you can write it down on a piece of paper, can't you? So something simple, I know, but I pack in my bag some way of writing down information, right? Or your observations. So notebook and pen, make sure it's like a waterproof notebook and pen. No good getting it bloody out in the elements and the paper just turns to bloody mulch, and some pens. Again, if you need to relay information, you could write it on a piece of paper, pass it to someone else. You may see some sort of information that you need to write down so you can remember it for later on. You may even have to leave a note in your vehicle. If you're leaving your vehicle, it's broken down or whatever has happened, you may have to leave a note in the vehicle explaining it, who you are, where you're going, you know, and that sort of relevant information. So something simple, like I said, I know, but a good piece of kit to put in your bag. And also, as part of your understanding or your observations, could be such things as reference books. Could be a foraging book. It could be the SS Survival Guide. A brilliant little thing to put in your bug out bag. Covers just about everything in there, as long as you can read the writing, that is. Writing is pretty small. But yeah, if you was stuck in a survival situation and you needed to know something, it could be knot tying, could be anything. A good reference book could help you in that way. So there we are. That's you for understanding, and that's broken down again into info, your intel, your navigation, your field maps, and your observation equipment. Right, so we're nearly there. We're on our last letter now of our bug out an acronym, and that's T. That stands for thermal. The thermal, as the name suggests, is protecting yourself against the elements and the cold. Now you're probably asking why it's the last on the list. Well, it's not essential for everybody. You know, if you're in Arizona or the desert, obviously you don't need thermal layers. Obviously, if you're in colder climates, it'll be one of the first things you pack. But most of the time, it is one of the essential parts of your kit. So that's why it's on the list. So again, thermal, I've broken that down to another acronym, and that's cold. So first one on that list, C, and that's for clothing. And when it comes to clothing, again, it's selective, isn't it? It depends, again, on your location, your circumstances. You know, I keep going over and over it. If you're only walking, you know, a few hours, you won't need thermal layers and that. But this is how you use this system to suit yourself. So obviously clothing is protecting yourself against the extremes, isn't it? So socks, always have a spare pair of socks in your bag, especially if you're going over a long distance or, you know, a few days. I use the sealskins, waterproof socks, very good. Warm hat, obviously, some thermal layers. So at night, when the temperature drops, you can put some extra clothing on. These sort of buffalo jackets, all packed down really small in your bag. Again, not for everybody, as I said, but horses for courses, I think is the saying, isn't it? Another thing I like to pack in my bag, the windproof suit. Well, it's a shirt and or top and trousers. So as you can see, very lightweight, very small, packed down. But it's just a layer you can just put on. It keeps the wind off you. Good to put on at night, obviously. As I said, when the temperature drops. So clothing, I'm not going to go into every sort of type of clothing you can pack. Again, it's each to their own, isn't it? But I like to make sure I've got a warm hat, change of socks, and some sort of warm gear to put on at night. Next on our list of our cold, always for outer protection. So this could be your bivy bag, it's part of your sleep system. It could be just a blizzard bag or a survival bag, as I showed before. Foil blanket, little bivy bags. This could be enough depending on the climate. If you're in colder climates, you could need sleeping bags. This is my down bag. Could have your army issue Arctic sleeping bags. There's an array of different sleeping bags. A hammock underquilt. So depending on obviously your situation, the climate, and your sleep system, keeping yourself warm and protected against the elements is key. So I have an acronym cold, your clothing, your outer protection. Next on the list is layered protection. Now what do I mean by layered protection? Well, this is where if you are sleeping outside, you're protecting yourself from the ground using some sort of layer. So either some sort of sleeping mat, could be an airbed, could be a self-inflating mat, it could be a wool blanket, it could be, as I said before, just utilising your survival bag, fill it full of ferns, grass, and making yourself some sort of platform to sleep on, having that sort of layered protection on the ground to insulate yourself from the cold. So there we are, we're nearly there. We're on our last acronym for cold, which is part of our last acronym for bug out, which is thermal. So what is it? What is our last acronym? D for cold. That's dry bags. Now you might be thinking, dry bags, what the hell are you going on about dry bags? You've lost it. But just think about it, you've got all your stuff in your bag. You've got all your survival gear, you've got your equipment, you've got electronics, and it's no good having all that in your bag and it gets wet and it's ruined. You've got to get your sleeping bag, especially if it's down bag and it's wet, waste of time, right? You've got to get your electronics, it's wet, doesn't work. So keeping your gear protected, I think, is essential, right? It doesn't have to just be dry bags. Obviously, some equipment, doesn't matter if it gets wet. But for most of your stuff, it's always a good idea, I think, to put in dry bags. So this is a dry bag full of, like, I think it's a warm hat in here. And shamag. Something I use goes in my bag. Yeah, warm hat. So again, it's not good packing that in your bag and then empties down the rain and your bag gets wet, all your gear inside gets wet, and then it's a waste of time, isn't it? You know, you're going to get cold, wet, miserable, you know, could even be hypothermic. So keep your stuff nice and dry. And it's not just about keeping your stuff nice and dry, it's keeping it organised, right? Because we could have these zip pod bags as well, so they're not totally waterproof like a dry bag. So it'd be alright for stuff which doesn't have to be kept totally dry, but it keeps your stuff organised. Personally, I like to have one big dry bag in my rucksack, whatever bag I'm taking, and then have all my different elements of that bag using an acronym in these zip pods or little dry bags. Like I said, protects it, plus it's easier for organisation, especially in a survival situation where you need to get something pretty quick. So that was it. The last one, pretty simple probably, but an important one nonetheless. As I said earlier on in the video, it's ages ago now, isn't it? I will be packing my bug out bag for a trip I'm doing, so keep tuned for that in future videos. But that was it. That's dry bags. Put that back. So there we are. There's a video using this system to enable you to build your own bug out bag, emergency bag, go bag, which is the acronym bug out. So it's basics, utilities, then we got gear, then we got, I hope this infographic is working, I was just pointing to just the ear. Then we got optics, then we got understanding and thermal. And then each one again split into their subcategories. So I'm not going to go through it all now. I bored you enough as it is. So, like I said, this should hopefully enable you to build your own bug out bag or go bag. So if you haven't done so already, please think about liking and subscribing. Hit the notification bell. Make sure that's turned on because, as I said, I will be building and showcasing my own bug out bag. If you do want to watch some more videos, check that one out and that one. And I'll catch you again next time. All the best.